Has Sarah Davies absolutely lost her mind? Now before I get into the nitty gritty of this video, I do just want to say that this is in part Sarah's fault and in part her coach Spencer Arnold's fault. And it is also by no means a dig to like anybody in particular. This is not like a hateful video. It's just I wanted to make this video but not in like a mean way video, okay? So as I said, it's not a personal attack. The reason I named it Has Sarah Davies Lost Her Mind is because that got you here, you know? So now that you're here, thank you so much for being here. But if I had named it Has Sarah Davies or her coach Spencer Arnold Lost Their Minds because of a video that they put up on Instagram, probably would have lost you at the first few words, okay? So here we are. I would also just like to say that I have seen other athletes, other Spencer Arnold athletes, who have done this exact drill, but I've just chosen Sarah Davies because it gets you to my channel, okay? So a few weeks ago on Instagram, I saw Sarah Davies post this new drill that I assume is supposed to improve her split jerk. On this video, she captioned it, "Enjoy what may be the worst exercise in weightlifting. After 13 years in the sport, apparently you're never too old to learn new exercises, although I'm not a fan." So she openly admits that she's never done this exercise before, because I have never ever seen this video, like this exercise before, and also admits that she's not a fan because it's a very weird exercise. So in the video, she starts the drill by having a heavy back rack. So she has something that she cannot jerk on a back rack. She then drives this back rack jerk thing and then splits, but really short split. So has like a heavy barbell, does like a weird jerk drive but from the back position, like from your back rack position, and then does like a really small split position, which you will see in the video that I've got here. Now obviously we as the watchers are supposed to assume that this specific exercise helps to improve your jerk. I'm not going to do a huge technical analysis of Sarah Davies because that's not what this video is about. I'm just going to talk specifically about why I would never program this specific exercises for anybody that is anybody trying to do weightlifting. And most certainly would never program this exercise to improve your jerk position, and obviously will include at the end of the video exactly what I would do to improve Sarah Davies's jerk, or what I would program to improve your jerk if you have the same problems that Sarah Davies has, that we will now look at together. So if we watch a video of Sarah Davies doing a jerk, we can see that when she is in the setup position of doing her jerk, she goes to brace. Now obviously 100% normal, everybody needs to brace before you do a jerk. That's a critical component of doing a jerk. However, what I noticed when she's doing her jerk is that when she sets herself up, she does this like big inhale, pushes her chest out, but by pushing her chest out, she arches her back. So her back gets arched, the weight then moves forward on her chest, and she's suddenly on like an incline with the jerk being like very forward. So the weight is already forward on her shoulders by the fact that she's done this weird brace position, but like set herself up like this and just like move slightly forward. So her weight is already forward before she even starts the dip. Then she goes into the dip position, which obviously is already forward because of what we just mentioned. So when she drives, the weight is forward, causing her to do this enormous split position where she has her back leg basically straight, trying to save this jerk because the weight is forward. She's obviously become very efficient at this inefficient movement, because you can see that all of her jerks are very similar. As you'll see that I've got all of her videos playing right here, so you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. All of her jerks are forward, and I believe that that comes from the setup position where she arches her back to brace, which then leads to all of the other problems. It's like a domino effect. So if you brace wrong at the beginning, where she does, she has the weight all forwards, and in domino effect, the dip is forwards, the catch is forwards, your split is wrong because your back leg is straight and all the weight is forwards. So anyone who applies weightlifting logic to this issue will understand what I mean. This specific drill where they have a back rack position, drive, short split, jerk practice doesn't work for Sarah, or won't work for Sarah in the long term, because it's not addressing the key issues that she has. Specifically for Sarah, by moving the weight onto her back, it takes away the fact that the problem is when she inhales, does a big brace, moves the weight forward. By moving it onto the back rack, you are going to completely lose all of the issues that you have there. This specific drill doesn't address the specific issues that she has. Now obviously we'll talk about it in a wider sense, and in a wider sense, this exercise makes no sense. For one, because in my humble opinion, if you want to improve your jerk, you should work in the positions that the jerk are, i.e. front rack position. I think that back rack behind the neck, should we call it, behind the neck exercises have their place. However, that when you are trying to improve specifically a jerk problem, I really think that you should be focusing on that front rack position, because that is where it's always going to land. You clean it and you've got to jerk it. So the front rack position is super, super important, and learning and being comfortable with that front rack position is most important. So moving it to the back rack for me doesn't make any sense. Secondly, for me, drilling a short split doesn't make any sense however you look at it. I think that often what you see when people get to heavier weights is that they are scared to widen their split in order to catch the barbell. Now, I don't often say, oh, you should widen your split if you want to catch the barbell when it gets heavy, but if you have a well-tuned jerk position, your split will naturally get wider as the weight gets heavier, because you need to do that in order to catch it. So for me, drilling something where you drive it off the back rack, first of all, and then do like a really short split, for me, I see problems with that, because I see that as you move forwards, you may have reinforced short split positions like, oh, it's heavy, panic, split. Whereas you want to have a, oh, it's heavy, push up, split long and wide, and then that way, I think the chances of you getting that lift will be a lot higher. So for me, the short split drive situation doesn't make any sense. However you look at it, for me, it doesn't make sense. And will only open up for more issues when you go to jerk it. If you think that, oh, this weight's heavy, you go to the short split, and obviously that isn't gonna work for you. Now, thirdly, for me, the biggest issue is how far removed from a jerk do you have to get before it's no longer a jerk-related exercise. I think that when it comes to weightlifting, specificity is key, and the further you take it away from what the actual exercise is, the harder it is going to be for your brain to then implement it into the actual exercise. So if we look at, for example, just doing a pause jerk, you're doing a normal jerk but pausing in the dip. So your brain can easily make the connections of, this is a similar position to what I was in before, but now I'm just not going to pause. Whereas with this specific exercise, it's firstly on your behind the neck, so you don't have the similar front rack position, you don't have the same like pressure points, you don't have the same trigger, like you don't have the same relationships with your body, like it's putting you in a completely different position. And secondly, doing the short drive is just another thing where you're making it so far removed from what you actually need to do that it may actually be a detriment to you. So try not to remove something so far away from what the actual exercise is at the essence, because for me it doesn't make any sense to do that. Like if you want to get better at that specific thing, try and keep it as close to that thing as you can in order to make sure that you can get better at that specific exercise. Now I'm going to give you what I would do, or what I would suggest specifically for Sarah or anybody who suffers with this same problem of the weight dragging you forwards and having that forward jerk position. So first and foremost, I think the most important thing is addressing that brace position. Bracing is actually something that isn't talked about that much, but is super important for you to understand exactly how to do it. A lot of the time people do say that you try and like fill your belly up with air, but often by doing that, people do often do that like arch of the back, which puts a lot of pressure on your spine and doesn't effectively brace your core, which means that you often end up like overarching your back, and then the weight either goes forwards or goes backwards. So I think addressing that key bracing position first would be really important. You can do that literally just with an empty barbell. Just learn to sort of stand there with the barbell in your front rack, and then I think about pulling my rib cage down and breathing deeply by pulling my rib cage down and tucking my rib cage. Secondly, for me, I would recommend pause jerks in drive, so like pause jerks in the hole before you drive up. This exercise is great because people often do it wrong. So when you're doing it wrong, what I mean by that is that you do like a double dip, not a proper pause jerk. And this just gives you a lot of feedback as to where your weight is when you are doing the dip. So for Sarah, her weight is often forwards, so she would feel the weight pulling her forwards during that pause position, therefore have to rectify it. And finally, my last recommendation would be a pause in split. I obviously love pause exercises, but I think that by pausing in the split, it gives you a lot of feedback as to where you are driving the bar after you drive the bar. And in my personal opinion, the pause in split will teach you more about your jerk than any weightlifting seminar for like 3 hours ever could, because it will literally be direct feedback as to where the bar is. If the bar is out in front, you're just gonna lose it, and you know that you need to address the problems that we just spoke about in 1 and 2. So go back to 1 and 2 if the weight is forwards, okay? So that was my very quick analysis and breakdown of Sarah Davies' technique, as well as why I think that you should not do the exercises that she is doing. Obviously, I do know that Spencer Arnold is an incredible coach and has coached lots of great athletes. I think that specificity is key, and that for me, this exercise just falls short. You know, it's just not good enough for you guys. I don't want you guys to be doing this exercise and think, oh, it's gonna improve my jerk, when it may not. I don't think it will improve your jerk, okay? Thanks so much for watching this video. If you did enjoy it, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up, as well as subscribe to my channel, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Bye. Don't forget that I upload every 4 days, so you don't want to miss it. Okay, bye.